Hello booktube friends, this is Mia. Today's video is going to be a book review, which I haven't done one of this kind of videos for a little while, so I really do hope you guys enjoy this video. The book that I would like to talk to you about today is going to be The Changeling, which is a novel by LaValle. This is inspired by an old folklore fairy tale kind of story, which I won't tell you about because if I do, it would definitely spoil you for what happens in this book. Aside from that fairy tale inspiration, the book is also filled of magical realism and beautiful character development. The story follows mainly Apollo and his wife Emma. However, there are other characters involved as well. The story begins actually with Apollo's mother, who is an immigrant to this country, so you get a little bit of her background story. You get some information as to her struggles and challenges adapting to this new life in this country, as well as her romance with Apollo's father. Apollo's father disappears from his life at a young age, leaving him with some daddy issues, some abandonment issues, as well as this reoccurring nightmare that he continues to have for many years after his father disappeared from his life. His father's disappearance also has a lot to do with the choices that Apollo makes in regards to his career and his life and all of that. For example, he is a book dealer. He purchases valuable books at very inexpensive prices so that he can resell them at a much higher cost. And the reason why he got into the book world is because Apollo's father left him a box with a mixture of different things in it, and amongst those things there's this particular book which he used to read to him when he was a child, and he has this very special attachment to this book. He pretty much knows the entire story by heart, and that's kind of how he got into that. So that's what I mean when I say that his father's leaving pretty much influences the majority of his life. Eventually he meets Emma and he falls in love. He pursues her love until they end up getting married and they have a child of their own whom they named after Apollo's father. So the baby's name is Brian. After the baby is born, there seems to be some kind of miscommunication and issues within this couple. Pretty much they are both very stressed out, they're both very exhausted, and they're struggling with the fact of taking care of a newborn baby and the stresses and the difficulties that that brings into a relationship. Pretty much once baby Brian is born, that is when the story starts to get a little bit more dark and creepy, and you start to see a little bit more of that horror undertone to the story. Basically, you start to see certain side effects or symptoms in Emma that would probably state she is going through some kind of postpartum depression. Emma has to return to work shortly after having the baby. However, due to Apollo's type of work, he is the one that has the baby 24/7. And Emma starts to receive on her phone these photos of them two taken by a third person whom is never shown, and after she receives these photos, they pretty much delete themselves from her phone. So she has no proof of receiving these photos. And that's kind of taking her to an edge where she is just not stable. As they're trying to work through this as a couple, Emma ends up committing a horrible act, an unthinkable act, and then she disappears, she vanishes from the face of the earth. Apollo becomes completely obsessed with finding his wife and confronting her for what she has done, as he's also dealing with his own depression due to everything that has happened. At this point, the story is pretty much a dark toned story. It's heading towards that horror borderline, and this stranger approaches Apollo and he states that he has a a way of finding Emma, that he knows her whereabouts and he is willing to help Apollo find her. So these two men take on a journey trying to find Emma and confront her for what has happened and all of that. That's when the story takes a very, very sharp turn, and it kind of left me confused for a little bit. As I kept reading, I just wasn't so sure what was happening. I believe that that's when the author decided to introduce magical realism into the story, and when the story became more influenced by the fairy tale that inspired it. So for a little while, right around the middle of the book, I was pretty confused as to what the direction of the story would be, because I felt quite sure I knew where it was heading, and then all of a sudden things were just completely changed on me. I do wish that the author had created a more seamlessly adjustment into the second half of the story, but nonetheless, after I continued reading and after I paused a couple of times to kind of gather my thoughts as to what just happened, I was able to continue with the story and keep on enjoying it as much as I had the first half. So overall, I really, really enjoyed the story, and I really enjoyed the writing style. It was very easy to read. It was definitely a page turner. I read it quite quickly, and I just had to know more and more and more of what was happening. I love the way the author ended every chapter. So I really enjoyed a lot of the story. I just wish that that section would have been a little bit more easy to adjust to. From there on, the story of course gets darker and darker and darker as you go, and you get to see more and more influences from magical realism aspects as well as the fairy tale aspect. And I can't tell you too much of what happens next because I feel that that is the actual plot of the story, so I would definitely be spoiling some things for you when it comes to reading this book. I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars because it was a very enjoyable journey for me. I personally really enjoyed it. Once I got accustomed again to that very sharp turn, I was able to really appreciate how the author was seamlessly involving the magical realism and the fairy tale into the story. Definitely recommend this book if that is something that you're interested on, and I am very happy I got the opportunity of reading it. It's one of those books that if I had not joined this club, I would have probably never picked on my own. So that's part of the reason why I really wanted to join more clubs this year. So that is going to be all for this video. If you have read this book and you have a different opinion, or if you agree with me or whatnot, leave me some comments down below. I love reading your comments. And if you have not read it yet, let me know if this is the kind of book that you might be interested in picking up or not. If you like this video, go ahead and give me the thumbs up, and if you would like to see more of my videos, please go ahead and subscribe. And I hope to see you all very soon in another video.